Hi, good day. This is Derry Smith, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate to you how to install and configure Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2 and connect it to Microsoft Access. Things you need previously installed if not on Windows 7 or Windows Server 2008 or Windows Installer 4.5 and Windows PowerShell. Also, if you don't have .NET Framework 3.5 installed, download and install it to your machine. Once you verify that these items are installed, we can begin. First and foremost, you need to have Microsoft Office Suite installed on your machine, as will be working with Microsoft Access and any version of SQL Server. I'm using 2008 R2. Once you've downloaded it to your computer, run it. An extraction process will take place, and then you'll be able to continue. After the extraction process, you'll be greeted with the SQL Server Installation Center screen. From this point, you want to select New Installation or add features to an existing installation. A setup support check will run. Once there are no errors or warnings, you will be at the license terms screen. Here, you're going to accept the terms and then select Next. When the setup support files install is complete, it will then go to the setup support rules screen. Once that check is done, you'll reach the feature selection screen. At this screen, you're gonna leave everything as is and select Next. At the instance configuration screen, you'll be able to name your database as what it will show up in while you're dealing with it. So I'm just gonna leave my database, the SQL Server SQL Express, and click Next. Now in server configuration, here you will need to change a couple of things. First, you want to change the SQL Server Database Engine account name from Network Service to Entity Authority System. Secondly, you want to change the startup type for SQL Server Browser from disabled to automatic. After that's done, click Next. On the Database Engine configuration page, you can either leave it configured to use Windows Authentication Mode only or Mixed Mode, that is SQL Server Authentication and Windows Authentication. I usually enable Mixed Mode so that if for some reason my security gets messed up, I always have a backdoor account, which is the system administrator account. If you choose Mixed Mode, you need to enter and confirm a password for the system administrator. But I'm just going to be using Windows Authentication mode, seeing as it's a bit simpler to get into right now. Before you can continue, you will need to specify the groups that you want to have unrestricted access to SQL Server. Alright. Initially, it will have your current system administrator account inside here, but let's say your machine may have more than one users or a handful of users which are system administrators. You will go to add and add the users you would like to have access to your SQL Server. Once you're finished with all that, you can select Next. This is the error reporting screen. If you want to send Windows and SQL Server the error reports, you could select this. If not, just click Next. And you just sit back and wait for the installation to finish. Granted that you did everything correct and there's no errors along the way, you should see this little sign here with no yellow or red little circle thing showing errors. Alright, so once that is done, click Close. Now, if your SQL Server is to be accessed by computers over a network, you will need to configure the network options that are disabled by default. So you're going to open up SQL Server Configuration Manager. You're going to go to SQL Server Network Configuration, then click on Protocols for SQL Express. and you would see some of the items inside are disabled. What you want to do, you want to right click on TCP IP, select enable. You're gonna get this message here, click OK, and these other items, if you need it, you can install it, but since I don't need it, I won't install it. So when you finish here, you can close off SQL configuration, SQL Server Configuration Manager. Another thing you would want to do is add your newly installed SQL Server to the list of allowed programs in Windows Firewall, as if you're using it over a network, Windows Firewall may block the packets that get sent across the network, and you won't want that. So you go to allow another program, and then you're going to browse for exactly where it's located. Inside this folder, what you're looking for is SQL Server. Alright, SQL SERVR. Select that and click open and add, and you're going to allow another program. This time you'll be looking for sqlbrowser.exe. Here it is, SQL browser. Open, then add. Now with those both programs added to the list, you can click OK and head on to linking SQL Server to Microsoft Access. Last thing you want to do is head over to Windows Firewall with Advanced Security and add a particular port which SQL Server uses. So on inbound rules, you right click on it and click new rule, head on to port, click next, then you're going to enter the port 1433, click next. You want to allow the connection. You could put it to private or leave it as both private and domain, because you wouldn't want that port to be open while you're using public connections. So with that done, you click next, you give it a name, and you click finish. With that done, you can now connect SQL Server to Microsoft Access.